This is section 4.3, and on this section we are learning yet another form. It's called point slope form. So on the wall we have everything that we need to know for this section. We begin with the slope formula. This is not a form, this is a formula, right? If you have 2 points, you could use a slope formula to find the slope. Or if you had it visually, you could count rise over run. But this is the form that we're learning today, point slope form. The one that we already know is slope intercept form, and also standard form we already know. Just a review, why is standard form in capitalized, capital A, capital B, capital C? What does that help you remember? Anybody? It helps you remember that they're nice numbers, no fractions, no decimals. I hope you remember that, right? A, B, and C are integers, nice numbers, no fractions, no decimals. So if I ever do give you an equation and I tell you write it in standard form, you want to make sure that the x term and the y term are on the left side of the equal sign. You want the number all by itself on the right side, and you want to make sure that there are no fractions or decimals, right? That's standard form. Again, the word form is just the way it's organized. And this is organized with the x's and the y's on the left side and the number by itself with no variable on the right side and no fractions or decimals. How about slope intercept form? What does that mean? What kind of organization does slope intercept form have? You have y by itself, and when it's organized like this, you could clearly see the slope and the y-intercept. That's why they call it slope intercept form, because the slope, you could see, it's the fraction in front of x, and the intercept, the b value, is the y-intercept. Not where it crosses the x-axis, but where it crosses the y-axis. Now today, we're going to learn about point slope form. Now why do we call it point slope form? Because if you have a point, any coordinate, you could label that coordinate x1, y1, and you could actually see the point when it's in this form and the slope right here. So point slope form is great when they give you a point and a slope, all right? So this is on the board. Please try to memorize it. You need to know all these forms and including the slope formula. So I would like to go to yesterday's worksheet. Check out yesterday's worksheet. Yesterday's worksheet is all about slope intercept form y equals mx plus b. And they wanted you to write an equation of the line, and they want you to practice using slope intercept form. So pick one, 4 through 9. 6. We already did most, actually all of these yesterday, but I want to compare slope intercept form with point slope form. So slope intercept form, what you were supposed to do yesterday was to write x, y, and understand that this is an m, and use y equals mx plus b. But in order to write your equation in slope intercept form, you need 2 things. You need the m and you need the b. Okay? Do they give you the m? Yeah, it's 3. You have half of what you need. Do they give you the b? No, they don't tell you that it crosses the y-axis at a certain value. So what we're going to do is take what they give us to find out what we don't know. So I know that my x value is positive 2, and I could put that x value right here where the x is at. I know that my y value is negative 2, and I could take that y value and put it right there where the y is at. And I know that my m value is 3, and I could take that value of 3 and plug it right there where the m is at. So let me rewrite my equation. Instead of y, I'm going to put negative 2. The equal sign, instead of m, I'm going to put 3. And then instead of times x, I'm going to put times the positive 2 that I'm plugging in for x. And I still have the plus b. Okay? So I'm plugging in the x, the y, and the m. Why? So I could solve for b. Let's do the math here and solve for b. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. You have a plus b. You have the equal sign. You have a negative 2 on the left side. Let's get the b by itself. I'm going to subtract 6, and I end up with negative 8 equals b. So my b is negative 8. Are you with me?
Yes.
And now that I have the m and the b, now I could write it in y equals mx plus b form, which in this case is going to be y equals 3x minus 8. That's what we did yesterday. Now, do you guys understand what we just did?
Yes. It's easy.
It's easy? Okay. It might be easy, and of course it gets easier if you practice But if you realize that they give you a point and they give you a slope, then it's a lot easier to use point-slope form. So I want to use the same question, and if you have your notes out or a blank piece of paper, you might as well copy this question down over again. Put the coordinate 2, -2, and write down slope 3, and we're going to write the point-slope form equation instead of the slope-intercept form equation. Okay? The point-slope form equation is y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. We have to memorize it. The best way to memorize it is to write it over and over and over every time we use it. Now, how do we use it? I want you to rewrite it with blank spots. Instead of the x1, y1, and instead of the m, put blank spots. So check this out. Y minus blank spot equals blank spot parenthesis x minus blank spot. And now let's actually plug in the y1 value right here according to the information they give us. What is the y1 value? -2. Put the -2 right in there. And then the m value that goes right here, what's the m value? 3. And how about the x1 value that goes right here? +2, right? So just put a 2. And guess what? You're done. That is an equation. The instruction said write an equation that has that point and has that slope. That is a point-slope form equation. It just looks a little different, but it's actually the same equation. Okay, the only other thing you could do to make this look a little nicer is to change the minus to plus. So you could write it as y plus 2 equals 3 parenthesis x minus 2. That is an equation, but it's in point-slope form instead of slope-intercept form. And again, the instructions didn't really say write it in slope-intercept form. So if they just say write an equation and they give you the point and they give you the slope, you just plug them in and you're done. So that's why point-slope form is super awesome. Do you guys understand? Now, even if they told you write it in slope-intercept form, which is this guy right here, even if they told you write it in slope-intercept form, you could still use point-slope form, and then after that you just got to change the way this looks and get y by itself and obviously not have parentheses. So if I wanted an equation without parentheses, how could I get rid of these parentheses? Anybody? Multiply, distribute, yeah. So 3 times x, that's 3x. 3 times -2, that's -6. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the y, bring down the plus and the 2. So we got rid of the parentheses. Does it look like slope-intercept form now? Almost. All I need to do is get rid of that 2. How do I get rid of the 2? Subtract 2. You will have y equals 3x minus 8. It's the same exact answer. Y equals 3x minus 8, y equals 3x minus 8. We just took different roads to the same place, right? And that's only if they wanted you to write it in slope-intercept form. If they just say write an equation, then you could just stop right here because this is an equation right here in point-slope form. Now, if they say change it to slope-intercept, you could distribute, move that over, you'll have it in slope-intercept. Even if they ask for standard form, you could use point-slope form if they give you the point and a slope, and then you could change it by distributing and moving, and then you could move this 3x over for standard form if you wanted to. So you could actually subtract the 3x, and you'll have -3x plus y equaling -8. That's standard form. Or you could change the a value to become positive by multiplying everything by a -1, giving you a 3x minus y equaling +8. That's standard form. So technically, I took my one bit of information, the point and the slope, I wrote it in point-slope form, I changed it to slope-intercept form, and I could even change it to standard form. I could take all 3 forms and change my equation to become all 3 forms. What do you guys think? Yeah. Okay, so point-slope form is amazing when they give you a point and they give you a slope. It's amazing when they give you a point and a slope. Here are the detailed notes of all 3 forms. So we should have all these memorized. Slope-intercept form, we already know y equals mx plus b. We know that the m is the slope, which is rise over run. We know the slope formula. We know that the b value is the y-intercept. It just gives you all the details right there. We know standard form, they're capitalized A, B, and C to help you remember that they're nice numbers, no fractions, no decimals. We know that this standard form equation is great if they ask you to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. You could use that for graphing, right? How do you find the x-intercept? You set y equal to 0 and solve. To find the y-intercept, you set x equal to 0 and solve. So these are all the details about the different forms that we should know up until now. And right here, the latest one that we learned, point-slope form. I love this one because if they give you a point, that's really an x1 value and a y1 value. And if they give you a slope, you could just plug in the x1, the y1, and the m, and it'll be done. That'll be your point-slope form equation. And you could even use that to get to other forms by distributing and moving things, right? So the worksheet, which is on the other side of these notes, has 3 sections to it. So if you flip your paper over, you'll be on your practice for today. This is what we're doing for the rest of the class. The first section says, write your equation in point-slope form. Okay? So if you forgot what point-slope form is already, I hope you zoom into the instructions and actually write that down. That is your point-slope form equation. I'm going to highlight it or circle it with the highlighter. There it is. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So when you look at this first graph, you might be tempted to write it in y equals mx plus b because it's really easy to see that it crosses at 1 and that it has the slope up 1, 2, 3 over 1. They even give you the slope is 3 over 1, which is just 3. So you might be tempted to write it in y equals mx plus b, but the instructions say write it in point-slope form. So how do we do point-slope form? Again, I would write that down, and then I would rewrite it with blank spots. Everybody, y minus blank spot equals blank spot instead of m, parenthesis x minus blank spot instead of x1. So write it like that with blank spots, and then plug in your x1, y1 from the point that they give you. What point do they give you? On number 1? The -1 and the -2. So what is my y1 value that I'm plugging in into here? So everybody write down -2. How about my m value? What's my m value? 3. We already know it's 3, so plug that 3 right here. And how about my x1 value? -1. Now the reason why I start with blank spots is so whenever you see this minus minus right next to each other, you don't forget to change it to plus plus. Okay? And that's it. We're done. We wrote our point-slope form equation. Y plus 2 equals 3 parentheses x plus 1. You see, it's easy. How about this guy? Like you could use any point that you want, but they specifically give you the m, and they specifically give you the point, the x1, y1. Okay? I mean, you could use any point, but they want you to use this one that they give you. So once again, let's begin by writing down the point-slope form equation. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And I hope you noticed that as I was saying it, I didn't actually write it in, because that's what you're supposed to get used to. Get used to writing it with blank spots and then filling in your values. So we have y minus blank spot equals blank spot parentheses x minus blank spot. Now according to the point that they gave us, this is our x, this is our y. What am I plugging in right here? The -2. And what am I plugging in right here? The slope, which is -1. That's right. And what am I plugging in over here? The x value of 1, right in there. Okay. And if you have a minus minus, change it to plus plus, and you're done. That's it. Y plus 2 equals -1 parentheses x minus 1. They want the equation in point-slope form. We have the equation in point-slope form. It'd be a different story if the instruction said write it in standard form, right? Then you'd have to distribute and move things around. But it says point-slope. That's good. As a matter of fact, this whole first, whoops, how come that didn't work? This whole first part of the homework, I don't know, it's not attaching. I'm sorry. I'll move that out of the way. Anyways, the whole first part of the homework, it says write it in point-slope form. And that's what we're doing for questions 1 through 9. Which other one would you like to see? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9?
4.
4. All right. Point slope form. Let's write down the point slope form equation. Y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. Again, we're going to use blank spots. Y minus blank spot equals blank spot parenthesis x minus blank spot. And I'm going to label my x value, my y value, and also obviously my m value of 0. So my m value of 0 is going to go right here where the m belongs. My y value of 1 is going to go right here where the y belongs. The x value of 3 is going to go over here where the x belongs. Technically, I should have labeled this x1, y1. I'm sorry. Now, this is our point slope form equation, which in reality is going to be a horizontal line. How do I know that? Because it's a 0 slope. It's totally flat. It's totally horizontal. But that's my equation in point slope form. Okay. Now, if you were to like distribute the 0, then it's not in point slope form anymore. You would be changing it, right? But I would leave it like that. Let's do another from this section. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which one? 9? All right. Point slope form equation. Y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. Again, write it each time. That way you'll memorize it. Okay. What do we have here? We have an x value, an x1 value, a y1 value. What else do we have? We have an m value of negative 5/4. Okay. So let's take the negative 5/4, plug it in right here. That'd be a negative 5/4 right in front of the parenthesis with an x, with the minus. Let's take the x value, x1 value of negative 5 and put it over here into the x value, which is a negative 5. Let's put the equal sign there. Let's put the y, the minus, and the y1 value of negative 1, let's put it right there, which is going to be down here as a negative 1. The minus minuses change to plus plus, and we're done. Y plus 1 equals negative 5/4 parenthesis x plus 5. That's our point slope form equation, given the information that it passes through negative 5, negative 1, and has a slope negative 5/4. Not bad, right? So that first part of the homework is all about this new form that's amazing, that's wonderful. It's called point slope form. Okay. Now, the second part of our homework, if we read down here, obviously we're going to be practicing all three forms. The first one's the most important because that's what the new one that we're practicing. What about standard form? What's standard form again?
AX plus BY equals C.
That's right. So if you forgot that, I would write that down right here. I'm just going to circle it with the highlighter. That's your standard form. So this whole middle section of the worksheet, you don't want parentheses, you don't want fractions, you don't want decimals. You want your x's and your y's on the left side and your numbers by itself on the right side. So pick any question you want from this middle section. 11. Let's all take a look at number 11, which is pretty clear that it's in point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Who cares what form it's in? We want it to look like this, standard form. And we know that standard form doesn't have parentheses. So if you want to get rid of the parentheses, what are you going to do? Distribute. So let's distribute minus 3 times x, that's a minus 3x. Minus 3 times minus 2, that's a positive 6. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the y, the plus the 9. And now I need to move some things around. Obviously, I want my x's and my y's on the left side, and I want all numbers on the right side by themselves without variables. So I don't want this 9. I'm going to move the 9 over to the other side by subtracting 9. Subtracting 9. What do I have now? I have a y equals negative 3x minus 3. That'd be cool if they asked us to change the slope-intercept form. I'd be done right there because that's slope-intercept form. It crosses the y-axis at negative 3. It drops 3. It runs 1. But they're not asking for slope-intercept form. They're asking for standard form. That's just one more step away. All I need to do is get rid of this minus 3x, move it to the other side by doing the opposite, plus 3x, plus 3x. So what do I have left? My standard form equation, 3x plus y equals negative 3. There's my standard form equation of number 11. What do you think? Easy. And the last part is pretty much the same thing, but it's even easier because it's slope-intercept form. And what is slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. So maybe you want to go to these instructions, zoom in, and actually write that down. I'm just going to circle it with the highlighter right here. This is what you want to know. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So on all of these, it doesn't matter what form it's in. You don't want parentheses, and you want y by itself. So pick a number on this last section. 26?
24.
Okay, we'll do 24 and 26, no problem. Let's start with 26. Again, y equals mx plus b does not have parentheses. So we don't want those parentheses. What am I going to do? Distribute to get rid of the parentheses. Negative 1/3 times x, that's simple, that's a negative 1/3 x. Negative 1/3 times positive 9. We might have to see this work on the side. Check it out. Negative 1/3 times a positive 9. Put the 9 over 1, and then you can multiply the top with the top, bottom with the bottom. You're going to get negative 9 over positive 3, and negative 9 divided by positive 3 is negative 3. Are you with me? All right. So let's bring down the equal sign, bring down the y, the plus, the 1. We almost have it in slope-intercept form. I need to get that positive 1 to the other side. I need to get the y by itself. So let's get rid of that plus 1 by doing the opposite, minus 1. And what you do to one side, do to the other side, giving you your final answer, y equal, your final equation in slope-intercept form, y equals the slope, negative 1/3 with an x, and then the b value being minus 4. There's your slope-intercept form equation. Now, if you're thinking, oh, it has a fraction, I need to get rid of it. No, they're not asking for standard form. They're asking for slope-intercept form, and we like fractions, especially in the slope, right? Rise over run. Would you like to see another, or do you guys just want to work?
Yeah, work.
Want to work. All right, so the answers are posted on Google Classroom. There's videos explaining it also. I hope you guys understand this and practice this and get really good at the 3 forms that we learned or that we've covered so far.